Hey guys, just wait for some of you to join in. I'm going to talk about the beach house tonight. Hopefully, hi Kat, hi Karen, hugs Karen, hiya, hello everyone. Hi Kat, hi Emma, happy anniversary Emma. Mwah, mwah. Right, okay, I'll start. I'm just waiting for Martin to join, so he should join soon. But tonight we're going to talk about hiya, hi Martin, I'll add you in a second. We're going to be talking about Beach House. So I've got this copy and this like shiny copy. This copy's best. So yeah, so we'll be chatting about that. I'll add Martin in straight away, so I'll do things a bit different this month. So let me try and add Martin in. Hopefully it will work. I've sent you a request, Martin. Hopefully that will work. If it doesn't, let me know, because it came up with a weird message. But if you don't know, I've got Martin joining me this evening. Martin is the brilliant author of these two books. So we've got River Keep and then The Sacrifice Box, which is like, if you like point horror, you'll really love The Sacrifice Box. It's really like point horror-y and just really, really good. And Martin's got a new book out called The Wild Hunts Boys, which I really must get a copy of. But yeah, do check out Martin's books because they're so good. I'll try and add Martin again. Ooh. Martin, it's saying unable to join. I don't know if you need to update the app. So whether you just want to try and update it. I know it worked when we tested it the other day. I don't know whether you're on a different device. Just want to have a look, Martin, and see. What I'll do, I'll go through. Yeah, Kirkland, Martin's brilliant, definitely. I love Martin. Oh, and gone. So it should work now. Fingers crossed we'll get Martin. Fingers crossed. Yay!
Hey! There we go.
Are you all right?
I'm so glad that's what, you know, I was trying to do it on my laptop before.
Ah.
And that, you know, you two talk me through this. Can you not do it on laptops? That's not a thing. Sorry.
You should be able to, but I don't know. I tend to just use the iPad for everything.
You're now on my phone, which is propped up on my laptop.
What, I was trying to do it on my laptop
which is all my notes that I made. That's the thing. I was eagerly making notes as I was going through the book. You know?
Yeah. I think we might have a bit of feedback. I don't know whether you just want to put some have you got any earphones? I tend to just use the iPad. Yeah, just try putting your earphones in and just see if that works. Yeah, Justin said there's feedback. It's always the way with like live technology. So is that any better? Can you hear me?
No, I can now hear you, what you were saying about a minute ago. Oh,
that's strange. Okay. Shall we Justin said it's better. I can't see you now, Martin. You're like a blurry screen. He's gone. We'll let Martin sort out his problems that he's having. Live technology. It's normally me, to be fair. What I'll do, I will see if I can invite him back in. Just try and invite him back in. Yeah, we've lost Martin. So I'll start rambling, and then hopefully Martin will join us back. Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry. this is mortifying, doing this with other human beings. What I realised happened is that, you know, I said I had propped up my phone for Instagram on top of the laptop. So I had sat you on top of the laptop speaker, which had still had Instagram feed go. So
that's no problem. You're here now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I think somebody thought that Buddy out of the beach house had got you.
I know, watch out for that guy. Turns out it was just me being an idiot, which would be that's the big twist at the end. It was
no, not at all. Don't worry. It's normally me, Martin. It's normally me. So, so I was just talking about like the Sacrifice Box is like one of my favourite books of yours, and like I know you're a huge point horror fan. So what got you into point horror when you were younger? I know that the beach house is like particularly quite important to you.
Yeah, do you know, it was really interesting going back to it, and I'm a really nostalgic person anyway, and actually I was applying for a job, a writing residence thing today, and talking about my whole nostalgia instinct. So revisiting this was really, really satisfying, and going back to it. And even like, you know, when I bought a copy of eBay, because I don't have my old copy or anything. I think it must have been a library book when I read it before, actually. So like getting this through the post and be like, oh my God, like, you know, and it was all sealed stuff where you've got all the other covers. And I so remember looking at these and being like, oh, I've not read that one, I've not read that one, I've not read that one.
Yeah. Do you remember like crossing them off in the book?
Like that kind of collector's instinct was something I just so remember connecting to. And I really loved it. Like I loved everything about them. I loved the artwork and the cover, you know, the painted covers and things. Yeah. And especially like R.L. Stine books. I just remember, I remember Diane Ho and various other ones, but I just remember at the time, you know, my perception, my instinct was that if it was an R.L. Stine one, it was a good one. Do you know, that was the one that was what we wanted, you know. So I really loved going back to this. I remember, I mean, everything like about the sort of just the aesthetic of the whole thing. So do you know the sort of blood dripping font?
Yes.
And I remember feeling like, you know, when I was sort of 11 or 12 or whatever, it feeling like this quite a grown up thing. And do you know what? Like, especially also, these were books that I was allowed to read and encouraged to read. You know, I mean, we were always taken to the library and things and really encouraged to read as kids. But if these were films, I would never have been allowed to watch them. Yeah. Actually, it really struck me on rereading this. So I think when we were chatting before, I think, you know, we discovered the UK edition was 93. Yeah. So I would have been like 11, maybe 12 when I was born in 82. Yeah. 82. Yeah. So I'd have been 11, maybe 12 by the time I got to read this. And the thing that I had not connected to at all was how brutal the murders are.
Yes.
Like, like, oh my God, like, you know, and there was a bit, you know, when Stewart gets his skull bashed in.
Oh yeah, with a log or something.
There's a bit of white bone skull sticking out, and I thought, oh, good grief.
No,
you know,
that was quite graphic for a point horror, definitely.
Yeah, like really, unexpectedly so, and you know the big bloody all that. Kirkland, I can so imagine you as a Diane Ho.
Yeah. It was definitely like a really interesting reread, and like I always remember it being one of my favourites. Cameron's just asked me if this is a beach house t-shirt, but it's close. It's beach party. They didn't do a beach house, so I thought I'd go the next best thing, beach party. Yeah. Still R.L. Stine.
Is that 𝐿 up on the cover and the sort of towel laid out?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, right. Can't see it because I'm cut off, but yeah, yeah, that's it. So what I'll try and do a bit of an overview of Beach House. Prepare your minds for like some worry backwards and forwards stuff. So basically, I'll have to start by saying if you've read I'm getting confused now, Beach House, then you'll recognise this, but all right, that's what they say in there, but I think that's how you say it in my English accent.
Now, when you're doing an overview here, are you going to break down the specific timeline with spoilers of when everything happens?
I will try. Well, not too specific, just a brief overview. But yeah, just to warn everyone, spoilers ahead. Like, if you haven't read the book, then you probably want to like not listen. But if you're here, then you've read the book, or if you're just here because you want to know more about it, then great. So the beach house then. So basically, we get 2 point horrors for the price of 1, with lots of characters. I don't know how we're going to fit them all in. So you've got one half set in 1956 with like Mickey Mouse blankets and swimsuits, Bermuda shorts, and Earth Angel playing on the radio. And then one in present day with MTV blankets, boogie boards, boom boxes, and very tight blue spandex trunks. So you get the picture, 2 timelines. Basically, the gang in both 1956 and the present day just want a relaxing holiday on the beach, but what they get is murdered and sharks. So yeah, so most of them do get murdered anyway, but we'll go into that a bit further as we go along. But yeah, someone is set on murdering this group of friends, both in both timelines, 1956 and the present day. And they all like echo each other to a certain extent. And in both timelines, there's like a sturdy beach house, which is hiding a secret, which one member of the gang has discovered. So spoiler alert, it may involve a huge closet and time travel. Basically, beach house is the Narnia of point horrors. Definitely. I mean, that closet was huge. And I noted as well, so that's kind of my little summary. I know I haven't given too much away there, but that's kind of like, I think it summarises it quite well. It was really hard. Yeah, it's a hard one to summarise, but I in this book, I just have to start off by saying there was chapter headings, and like in point horrors, you don't normally get chapter headings at all. I don't know whether anyone else noticed that, but yeah, chapter headings were really good. So my favourite was worried about sharks, and I was like, yeah. So it kind of gave like an overview what was going to happen in that chapter.
I really loved it. Yeah. That's no, I noted one of them was murders and another one was murder. And I know, obviously, my accent is now making this feel like an episode of Taggart, you know. It's the beach house being a murder, you know.
Murder. Oh, I love it.
And you know, I really loved the one that were just questions, which felt like a way of, like, it was almost like he was sort of cheating in terms of, you know, ramping up the tension and sort of keeping people. Yeah. One of them was just, who's in the beach house? That was it. That was the chapter heading, you know.
You're and like, who?
His buddy, like, come on. I loved that.
I know, I loved it. Definitely, I think it was done on purpose to ramp up the tension. But I don't, unless I'm wrong, I don't know of any other point horrors that have done that. So I might be wrong, though. I could be wrong because my memory is not that great. I really liked it.
I just see Karen saying, like, you know, we have to talk about the sharks. Are there any other point horror with sharks?
Not that I know of, but there is one with piranhas. I won't spoil it.
Yeah.
If anyone knows the piranha book, DM me, because I've got lots to say about it. Or if anyone finds the piranha one, let me know and I'll tell you if you're right. But yeah, there's one with piranhas, but I've not known of any sharks in point horror before.
It's one of the other things that I really remember striking me so much. The ending, like the twist at the end, like, you know, 12-year-old me was so blindsided by it. Do you know, like, sort of stand up and walk around the room and then pick the book up again type, like turn my head inside out, you know. But I remember being really surprised with the sharks. And the fact, like, as well, there's something as well, I think it's, this is obviously going to happen because there's Ashley and Amy and there's the two timelines and things.
Yeah.
Ashley that gets tied up to the dock, you know, to the sort of the stilts on which the beach house sits and just left to drown. Is that right?
Is that, was it
Or
Ashley? Let me think. No, Amy. Amy gets tied up, yeah, to the, that's in the 1956.
It's 56. Right.
Yeah, and then Ashley in the present day is the one that Brad's just trying to get her in the closet all the time because it was a bit dodgy.
Extremely dodgy, yeah. But there was something about, like, coming back, you know, obviously Stewart gets, like, bludgeoned on the beach.
Yeah.
But there's something sort of, the immediacy of the violence is sort of, you know, whereas there's something slow burn of, like, I'm not going to kill you, I'm going to cut you and just let sharks slowly tear you to bits. Like, it's so, there's so much, I mean, traumatizing, you know.
Yeah,
and then
no, definitely.
James Bond villain style, like, ties her up and is like, okay, the tide's coming in, see ya, pals.
See you later.
Which is really cold, really cold. And that, I mean, makes it really, you know, it's the sort of, his sort of perceived wronging at their hands gets cold very quickly as a motive. Do you know what I mean? So then it's like suddenly just doing these brutal things. And I remember being really, like, sort of shaken by this when I was much younger, and really enjoying that and feeling like it was, I think it's such a good thing about the point horror books. Like, certainly for me at that age, like, they were right on my limit. You know what I mean? Like, it was a very comfortable discomfort with them, and it was so well pitched for that. But I remember this one being like, oh my god, you know, and it's feeling very adult for that reason, you know.
Yeah, it did feel very adult. Compared to some point horrors, especially, like, this one did feel really adult. I know with regards to the sharks, I know Karen actually messaged me, I think I wrote it down, saying she gave me some shark facts. And she was like, the only
one.
Well, apparently June Hampton, where this is set, must be a real place.
Amazing.
And, like, she told me that the only sharks in June Hampton, Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, are broad-nosed 7-gill sharks, and there's only been 7 attacks globally by these sharks. So Stine didn't research his shark facts. Or he did it on purpose.
I mean, this is the thing then, because obviously, you know, she gets very badly chewed up, but ultimately gets away.
Yes.
So, did he absolutely nail it? I mean, probably not. I think it's probably just, you know, it's probably did his research, but he's really lucked out with that one.
Yeah. No,
he set
definitely.
it in a village where the sharks just sort of chew you and then spit you out, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good fact. Wow.
I know. I loved it, Karen. Like, well done for finding that, because I would never have known that.
Yeah, no good.
Should we talk about some of the characters?
Yes.
I'll try not to go to, there's so many, I'll try and get through as many as we can, but let's start with Maria/Mary. So obviously Maria is in 1956, and then spoiler alert, the twist is she ends up in the present as Mary, the maid. So Maria, I've just made a couple of notes. She annoyed me a little bit. I'll go into that in a second. But she's had, like, straight black hair with, like, bangs and a ponytail, dramatic brown eyes. She rocked some, like, pink sunglasses at some point, so it was, like, really, really, like, setting the scene for the 50s. She'd never gone steady with a boy, but then seemed to have all the boys, like, wanting to be after her. And then basically, in my opinion, she's the one to blame for Buddy turning all kill, and because she just rejected him. And obviously that whole where he was left in the swimming pool. But I actually made a note saying she was TSTL, which is too stupid to live.
Yes.
I feel so bad because I said that because she kept falling for Buddy's like little wobbly lip all the time, and like it was just annoying. But then when that ending happened, she just redeemed herself.
Yeah.
She basically survived Jaws. is what I think.
Yeah.
But what did you think of Maria as a point horror girl? I mean, she got bumped off quite early on, really, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. I mean, I thought she was pretty good. I mean, I felt she's in a sort of tricky position. It's unfortunate that he overhears her, totally blowing him off, you know, because she's very conflicted about it, and she obviously senses, you know, I think we're supposed to be kind of on her side with it, because he's, you know, he's kind of difficult, and he just seems a bit sort of other, and she's wanting this really cool summer, and everyone else is sort of, you know, they're all stealing his shorts, so she maybe doesn't want to go out with the guy who gets his shorts stolen, you know. And I suppose we can kind of sympathise with her, and she obviously feels a bit bad about it, and you know, then agrees to go swimming with him to sort of cheer him up a bit, you know.
Yeah.
Is he swimming with a knife?
Well, that's a really good point.
Somebody going,
if he was swimming with the knife in these little tight trunks, where did he put the knife?
Yeah.
Oh dear, that could have been a very different point horror, really.
Absolutely,
yeah.
It just occurred to me, but you know, it's. I did think there was a sort of running thing in the book, because I wrote in the margins of the book.
You wrote in the margins?
Only at the start. I made a couple of wee notes and I folded a page, and then I thought, you know, because I don't like, even like when I was at uni and stuff, I didn't like doing that. So I made loads of notes on my laptop afterwards.
Yeah.
A Swiss Army knife, I think, is a good shout, Dustin, but you're still taking a chance if you put it in your budgie smugglers, I think, you know.
That's a good call, Dustin.
I made a couple of notes because I think we're all, you know, everybody's very aware now. And like, you know, we have Disney. Well, I've got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. So we're basically sort of mainlining Disney Plus right now. And, you know, all the films come up with a disclaimer of, you know, there are cultural insensitivities here. You know, this film was made in the 50s. They weren't appropriate then. They're not appropriate now, blah, blah, blah. You know, and everybody's sort of, people are taking a revised look at older texts, you know. And I know a couple of times in the margin, like, I don't know if they would do this now, you know. And I think this is something about Maria that, you know, she shouldn't be doing, is, you know, when the wobbly lip goes, she sort of gives into it. And it happens in the 90s with Brad. And Amy transposed
Brad and Ashley, Ashley fell for so much.
The doc is, you know, come and sit next to me up at the beach house. And it says that, I think the line is, you know, but she couldn't stand his little pout.
Yeah.
You know, she went and sat next to him, and it's like, no, man, you know, just like pouting. Out of it, you know.
No.
I don't think that they would do it now. There's definitely a thing of a lot of male anger in the book. And the girl response to the male anger, which is quite a sexualized anger, is something that would be, I mean, it would be written totally differently now.
Yeah, and I thought that as well. Yeah.
Interesting, you know, because it's not that old a book, you know. 25 years old or so.
There's a lot of the boys in the book like grabbing the girls from behind like constant, and I was a bit like, I don't know whether that would be.
Or you know, they want to leave, so he grabs a wrist and all this kind of stuff, and it's a threatening book, and clearly there are tension, but just no, you know. And I think I quite liked it. I thought her obvious sort of sympathy for him, just to go back to the thing at the start, you know, when they've stolen his shorts and all that, she's the one who's really trying to get them back and things. So I think we're definitely to be on her side. But ultimately, it's bad that she totally blows him off. Dinghied. We would Glasgow, you know, she dingies him and goes out with somebody else and voices out loud why she's doing it and huddled there, presumably with a knife in his swimming trunks on the other side of a sand dune, you know.
Yeah. Oh, the horror of that night. I can't get over it.
It's a real subtext, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Karen said there's a lot of sitting down obediently in this book, and that's not far wrong, to be honest. Another character who I actually really liked from the 50s timeline was Amy. So I think her nickname was Mouse.
Mouse.
So she was like the blonde girl, tight curly blonde hair, thin boyish figure, grey blue eyes with a little tiny button nose, which apparently is why she was called Mouse. But she spent a lot of time talking to the moon, a lot of time looking at the clouds and the sky. And I think she, like, at some point, like, fashion wise, she like rocked some like pink shorts and stuff like that. But I actually quite liked Amy. Like, I mean, I forgive her. Like, she did go on a few little strolls on her own, even though there was a murderer around. So she still just strolled down the beach on her own. And there was the whole scene, which for me was like, and it probably wasn't really funny at all, but I just found it funny. But I think when Buddy is like not chasing her, but he's running towards her down the beach, and like she's like suspecting Buddy at this point, and like she's just like running away. But it just made me laugh because I could just imagine, you know, if you've ever been on like a really sandy beach, try running on the beach. Yeah. Just me, maybe.
No, I know exactly. I could definitely see that playing out. Those sort of slightly grabby, desperate steps that you'd be taking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd just be on the floor. Like.
Definitely an element to it. I mean, I thought, yes, I did like her. I thought you're definitely meant to be like on her side. You know, in the volleyball scene, she's obviously not totally comfortable in her own skin, and you know, she feels she's dead weak. Can't get the ball over the net and all these kind of things.
That was quite a random scene, actually. It was just didn't have any relevance to anything.
Yeah, like Top Gun had parachuted in, you know.
Yeah.
There was a bit where, do you know when Buddy presents himself on the beach covered in blood, and goes, "Oh God, yeah, I was just making a sandwich."
Yeah. What? Yeah, he said he'd cut his finger or something, wasn't it? I think, or something like that. He's like plastered.
Like a live piglet, do you know what I mean? What's that mean? No. So he's covered in blood. The policeman then says, "Who are you? Who are you, guy?" And he's like, "Oh, I just, you know, I live with my mom and blah, you know, blah, blah, blah." And Amy says, and I've written it, this was one of my notes, "You have no reason to suspect, Buddy," she told herself, as he presents himself covered in blood and then lies to a policeman in front of her. And she's like, "No, you're being crazy," you know. And so at that point, I did think you might be too stupid to live, potentially, you know, to go back to it. Because if you're ignoring this many red flags.
I mean, yeah, how did she? I didn't pick that up when she said that, actually, but now you've said it, I remember. But
that sort of heightened energy is so much fun, you know. So I got, you know, whenever I got to one of these, I was like, "Oh yes," you know, and wrote it down, you know. Yeah, you have no reason to suspect, Buddy, she told herself. The blood child,
when he's like looking like, I don't know, Stew out of Scream or something.
Yeah,
blood everywhere.
And that's, I mean, this is them literally, I think, standing next to Stewart with his skull caved in and a bloodied club. You know.
Yes.
There's the murder weapon, he says. It looks his buddy. Yeah. Probably.
Oh dear. Talking about Stewart, I quite like Stewart. He was like the Mr. Rock and Roll and like the Mr. Cool Cat, and he was the Joker. Was meant to be the Joker of the pack. So he was always snapping his fingers to some tune, trying to look like the tough guy, but really he was just like cute and funny. So he's like my typical favourite point horror character. But he was basically the opposite of Buddy. But he was always horrible to Buddy. But oh, and he had that pink Thunderbird convertible, so he just went up in my estimation straight away. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, I know.
And he had like sayings like "See you later, alligator," and "Oh, meat" and stuff. But
I know, I did like all these stuff, you know.
Yes,
He seemed to me, I had him in my head as like one of the boys that would be kicking about on the bleachers in Greece, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah,
well,
he did come across like that. So did he deserve what he got, really, with his bludgeon to death?
I mean, in the context of point horror, because I couldn't, you know, stealing somebody's shorts, you don't really deserve to be bludgeoned to death.
No.
You know?
This was all over some shorts.
I know. So no, I don't know. He never. The lack of repentance was a problem for me. You know, like he wasn't sorry at all. You know, and I did think, you know, there was a line that really jumped out, and because I couldn't remember the book that way, you know, it's been so long since I've read it. I thought, oh, like what's happening there? And it was after Maria's died, and Amy's reflecting on having only seen Stuart once from a distance, going somewhere, and it was going somewhere like, you know, sort of fairly celebratory and nice, like going out to do something cool and happy, and he'd over and giving her a big smile and a wave. Hey, how you doing? You know, and I remember thinking like, oh, I wonder if he's like, he must be involved, and I didn't remember that, you know.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of slightly discordant bits where, like, I think it's, you know, they're sort of angst-ridden, and everybody had, you know, everyone's vanished, and you know, you know, they think Maria's dead, and you know, she can't concentrate on anything. And then her and Ronnie go, and he has like a massive hot dog with sauerkraut.
Yeah.
So like, I just, you know, I can't eat. Oh my god, yes, no onions, please. You know, which is strange. And it arrived at the same point where they talked about having seen Stuart, and he was like, "Hey guys," you know. And I remember thinking like, ooh, because I remembered the twist, you know. But I thought, were there like sub twists? You know, like in Scream, and it turns out it's two of them, you know.
Yeah. No.
Spoilers.
There's definitely like quite a few like red herrings along the way.
Yeah.
That made it, because I thought, I mean, I obviously remembered the time travel element, but it was a little bit hazy for me, like who it was, and then I kept thinking, have I got it wrong? Like, is it not the person that I thought it was, because of those exact reasons? But yeah, I think you just mentioned Ronnie, didn't you? So Ronnie was in the 50s as well. I think that was the last character in the 50s.
Yeah.
But I didn't really make many notes on Ronnie. He was kind of a bit forgettable. All I made a note was that he was a long, lanky giraffe.
Yeah.
But that was it. Like, I don't really know much about him or anything really. So
no,
yeah.
I think he was the sort of least defined of them all.
Yeah.
I think that's probably because he seemed kind of like, you know, he's this pairing, and he's got his pal Stuart, who's like, oh, thanks very much, Adrian. Funny one. So he's kind of like his sort of dry, duller pal. Do you know what I mean? Like there wasn't really too much to him. But that was, I remember that was, it's when he runs away and she thinks, God, doesn't he look like a big lanky giraffe?
Yeah. That's literally all I wrote.
Yeah.
About him. That's
No,
so bad.
I'm the exact same. Like, it's I wouldn't have been so fussed to witness his death, but he dies off screen. Like, it's just, Buddy comes back later and it's like, oh yeah, and Ronnie's dead too, and it's like, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah.
Which felt like a word count decision, potentially.
Yeah, possible.
Where he's killed him, but they've gone, look, RL, you know, you're 8,000 words over, pal, so cut this baby
Thin it down.
And he's just bumped that together. Surely, there's no way he's left off that murder, you know. I've frozen on my...
frozen. Or you're frozen, I think. Oh, I don't know whether we've lost Martin. No! Oh, he's back. You're back.
Yeah, that's what happened. Good question. I don't know.
Yeah, what did happen to Denny? He had like the best point horror name ever, like Denny Drake, I think it was. And like he was just severely underused, and like I think he was like should have been in a different point horror, but he kind of just ended up in this one and realised he was in the wrong place.
One punches someone in the stomach and runs off. See you again.
Ross did deserve that though.
He really did.
He did deserve that.
Yeah. Interesting that we've got a sort of whiny, jealous Ross from the 90s, you know.
Yeah.
They really transferred into Friends and became a real archetype, you know. Yeah, he totally did deserve it. And he was the one that I kept thinking of. I was pleased, obviously, that she eventually thinks, do you know what? Like, your sort of mad jealousy can out you go, you know. Because his sort of, and, you know, I mean, I know that young men can be that sort of angry, jealous type and things. You know, I remember that in myself at school, you know, struggling to process all these, all your emotions and thoughts and things. But it's definitely, it's placated a lot and sort of catered to, and, you know, all that sort of, you know, well, he's angry, so I'll sit here quietly type thing. But, and obviously, eventually, she tells him to get lost and he gets punched. So that's great. You know.
Yeah, no, definitely. Kirsty's put Ross was the absolute worst.
You're absolutely right. He was right. You know, he did.
He was right. Yeah,
so.
No, definitely. So talking about Ross, so now we're going to like the present day character. So Ross, who we're talking about, apparently he looked like Matt Dillon. R.R. Stine uses Matt Dillon quite a lot because I'm sure, I can't remember which book, might have been The Boyfriend, I might be wrong, but I'm sure he uses Matt Dillon reference quite a lot. So obviously he was iconic around that time, and I mean still is really. I like Matt Dillon.
It sort of petered out, but there was definitely a couple of points where he said he looks like Matt Dillon, blah blah blah, he looks like Matt Dillon. And at like sort of next chapter or maybe 2 chapters later, she looked at him again and was like, God, yeah, he really does look like Matt Dillon. And I'm like, okay, you know, like he looks like Matt Dillon, you know. And it was such a sort of a couple of those earlier on, and it's really like it's nice sort of like it's nice context, you know, sort of essentially historical context. And what I found really weird was reading this book that it's not like it's set in the 90s now. Like it's from the 90s, you know, so it's all sort of Vanilla Ice and Coca-Cola and Madonna and stuff, you know, as these like really obviously like cutting edge contemporary references. And it was really funny, like reflecting on the 90s as like a period piece, you know, where presumably now, like if you're 12 years old, like I think like my niece is 15, if she read this and it was like, he looks like Matt Dillon, she's going, who? You know, she might know him as the limo driver in Modern Family, maybe, but probably not. You know, and that kind of thing. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Martin. I was just going to say it was the same for me. So you know, the policeman I think in the 1956, he was like referenced as I made a note somewhere. So his name was Officer Barrett. Oh, and he was meant to look like Tab Hunter. Now, I didn't know who that was. It was obviously a 50s reference. So I actually looked him up and I was like, oh, okay. That's Tab Hunter. On my blog post, I put like a picture and he's like swimming trunks that I found on the internet. Anyway, we won't go into my internet search history.
That's the important thing, you know. Was there a knife in the trunks, you know?
But what I'm saying is it's like that's the same now. If someone read this now, talking about Matt Dillon and that, it's the same. They'd probably look it up like I looked up Tab Hunter.
But see, at the time, so when you read this before when it came out, because I'm really interested in this kind of thing, I think that a lot of Stephen King's stuff sometimes is quite reliant on sort of cultural shorthand references that can then date. You know, it can be really good to go back and it's like you're like, oh man, the 90s, you know. But sometimes things feel sort of a little bit older. And the thing is, when you read this first, you had no Google. So like you just were like, oh, he looks like Tab Hunter. Okay. You know.
Yeah, that would have just gone straight over my head,
the benefit of the swimming trunks, you know. I also wanted Officer Barrett to come back. At some really was expecting it, you know.
I know. Where did he go? He just like disappeared.
Maybe him and me went for coffee, you know.
Well,
you know.
Kat has just put, and I really like this, an out there theory. Did Ronnie die off the page because he time travelled and became Ross? She said, I noticed him listening to oldies on the radio. Ooh, I quite like that.
How tall is Ross? Does he look like a giraffe? That's the question.
Can't remember with Ross. I'm trying to see if I made any notes. All I made was that he had like a serious, intense face. I don't think they actually referenced and that he was tanned.
How high was his serious, intense face off the ground?
How high?
You know.
Oh, it's true.
I really like that theory, Kat. Kat's good.
I like that as well. And Sophie's put, I wonder if Ronnie is really dead yet. Okay, Amy tricks Buddy by pretending Ronnie has walked in and it works. Would it work if Ronnie really was dead? Ah, okay. Oh dear, oh, this is like timey-wimey. It's so confusing. Oh dear.
That's just the last thing I was going to say, just when I'm talking about the sort of cultural sort of dating reference points, because I'm really, really into this. So not to talk about my own work, he says, beginning to talk about his own work. So
you can talk about your own work.
I was like in the Sacrifice Box, which is set in May 1986, all the music up to like in it came out up to that point. Like there was, you know, and there were loads of ones that I really wanted to use that I couldn't because they were out of sequence or they came out in 1987 and stuff. And the editors were sort of anxious about this and about putting in things like references to The Cure or whatever, because some readers might not know who they are. But my thing is, if you Google like Monster Munch, which are already also in there, like, and you don't know what they are because you live in a different country, you get all the 80s adverts of Monster Munch, you know, the big characters of that.
Yeah.
So there's this, either you don't need to know because you just read them the way that we read like American books in the 90s, because you just take things at value. It's like, okay. So I made up a drink as a sort of canary in a cage for the book. So in the Sacrifice Box, they all drink Spike. And there's like Spike, there's Spike Light, and there's Spike Sting, which is like an energy drink version, which clearly wouldn't have existed in the 80s, but kids love energy drinks now, so I just want to put that in. So my thing was like, if I can have this, and nobody knows what it is because I've genuinely made it up, but you understand that it's like, it's the thing they all drink. You know, it's just like, it's the thing, currency in school that you'll have a can of Spike or whatever. Then you can have that because it doesn't actually matter if The Cure is a made up band. You know, it's like, it's just the band he's listening to, you know, and it's one.
I see. Yeah.
Like, and I'm really interested in sort of balancing how much do you use stuff like that, because you can do it too much and it becomes just a sort of like, you're just packing all these little references to like Super Mario or whatever in, and or mentioning Matt Dillon twice in 8 pages, you know.
Yeah.
But you do need some of it because it's what makes it feel like the 90s, you know.
Yeah.
This is like, I really loved sort of getting into that kind of stuff as I was going through, you know.
No, you're definitely right, because I know like when I was reading it, like as I say, some of that when I first read it as a teen, most of it would have gone over my head, but reading it now, I really got that nostalgia hit. Obviously because I was a teen in the 90s, and like it just, I don't know, reading it now makes you feel like, I don't know, more nostalgic and more like it is historical.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I'm really just rambling. But
but
like an historical thing. So you're like, oh, this is really in the 90s kind of thing.
No mobile phones, no Google.
No mobile phones.
Somebody runs on the beach, you've just got to run away without taking the picture first. You know, it's
that running down the beach.
Very in the, you know. But no, definitely, I really enjoyed that kind of stuff, and it was great in the 90s and the 50s, which is funny because at the time it wouldn't have seemed so sort of period piece, but obviously it is now, you know. So, yeah.
It would be so interesting for someone to read this now as a teen themselves. I would just love to hear
Yeah.
One, what they think of it, and two,
Yeah.
the references, and does it feel vintage to them?
I mean, my niece can read this over the summer because she's a great reader.
Yeah.
And I will report back on her findings.
Yes, please do. I'd really, really love.
She's
Really,
15 and very, so
yeah.
she's a good test, you know.
Yeah, Karen's put no mobile phones, no parents, except the shocker final scene. That was like, why did he put the parents in the very like final last page? So all this stuff's been going on like in the present day, and then the parents just turn up like after it's all over.
Yeah. Everyone
And
okay?
then when
they've been golfing, I think. They're the ones they've been golfing all. Just golf.
And then when Ashley unfortunately then gets back with Ross at the end as well. Boo. Oh, why she did that, whoever knows. But yeah.
Right, that was the thing. He was vindicated. That's what, you know, somebody was saying earlier, like he was right. So maybe that sort of recontextualizes all his sort of controlling horrible behavior. In her mind, I mean. Like she feels, well, okay, maybe he wasn't being such a complete ass. Like he was right about a crazy murderer, so, you know, we'll give him another chance. But she is wrong to do. Like we can all agree.
I wasn't a Ross fan. So, but no, I get where you're coming from, definitely. Karen's also put as well something about Kip and Lucy buying future stock options and lotto tickets. So Kip and Lucy were the characters in the present day who disappeared after having some sexy time in the beach house.
Yep.
Basically. Well, we can presume. And they just disappeared. And then wasn't it that Brad / Buddy said that they'd gone through the closet and then ended up, have I got that right?
So I think you're right. He said, yeah, they'll be in their 50s now. And at this point,
yeah,
where are these guys? Like, you would think they would come back and sort of, that's the whole thing with time travel. You know, it's like in Loopers and things like that. The old version of them might come down to the beach and say, hey, this is going to sound crazy, but he's going to stab you in the face, you know. Back off, you know. And the lack of warnings was something that also came up with Mary / Maria's phone call, because she phones sort of dead voice and says, stay away from him, you know, and says, this is your one warning. You're only going to get one warning. And I thought, you know, you've committed your entire life. You've almost sacrificed your entire self to pursue this man across time. And, you know, over decades. But now you're only going to phone her once. After all that. Like,
just the once, you get one phone call.
And I'm only going to say this once, you know, so listen very carefully. Stay away from him or he will stab you to death. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm silently being his maid again, you know. And it seemed really odd that she would go to all this effort but then not make more than one phone call, you know. Maybe she ran out of change. It was the 90s, so I don't know.
Well, yeah, no mobile phones, payphone and all that. But I mean, the big question is, how did she get into the future? I mean, I know she went through the time warp thing, but she said she took great lengths to get there.
It's hard to do. It's easy to go back. It's hard to go forwards. Okay, like I'm sort of into the mechanics of that. And when you're recapping this, are you going to like detangle the timeline? Because I had to sort of have a lie down, and I was going, yeah, okay. So hang on, says, and she's like, but then when I got through, I'd aged 30 years, and I'm like,
how old were you in the first place?
Right. So at what point did you do this? So it's like, so you get stabbed in 1956. The sharks, which are sharks that only chew people, which have 7 gills, spit her back out. She then goes to hospital for a year. She hides for ages because she's so hideously disfigured that she can't bear to come out in public. Her mother then dies at 25, which is what that's the point Karen's going for here. Yeah. And the impression I got was that then at that point, like her mother dies, and as part of her sort of healing and reflection from that trauma, she goes back to the beach house and sort of confronts the sharks that don't eat people. And at that point sets about sort of trying to get through, but it takes a long time. So it's like she starts that process at 25, and it's a really long time to learn how to get to the future. So I don't know how old she is when she actually achieves that. And I don't know where, is that an additional 30 years that she gets in the tunnel on the way through?
I love how much you've thought about this, Martin.
Try today, because I thought you might test me on it. I thought there was a chance.
Okay. Oh, damn!
I'd get like a flow chart out and go, okay, so she is
with my little stick.
And I would have to answer this live.
I'm disappointed I didn't think of that now.
Because it seems like what I'm prepared to accept, although it's not explicitly said, is that Buddy/Brad is really good at getting through. He just gets it. He has some sort of innate sort of ability, and it comes easily to him, whereas it doesn't come easily to others. So he can go back and forth really slickly.
Yeah.
But when he tries it, she doesn't do it well. And that then, so she bears a sort of aging scar that he doesn't bear. So he goes back and forth, no problem. But she's not quite as skilled in the sort of time traveling ways. And so it costs her 30 years to get there.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm sort of doing a lot of R.L. Stine's work here for him.
I was just going to say, you know, like, I think that you should maybe like do a retelling and like add all this information in.
Yeah.
I would definitely read that for one. And
I'm very
I think it does show us.
Yeah.
It does show as well that I think this book was potentially, because not all books were written for point horror or the point brand. So it does make me wonder whether there was more to it, and he was asked to cut it down to fit the mold.
Which is why Ronnie being killed, and why we don't get like Denny's whereabouts. You know, like, I mean, there is a sense of sort of contraction. I think you're totally right. And that's possibly it. And the sort of time traveling mechanics. Because like, see, when I read it when I was younger, it arrived as this sort of like, whoa, what? Like, you know, what? But in a really good way. Like, I really enjoyed it. You know, I loved that. And it was like, because you can go back, and there is a strange sense of time around it, because like it should have rotted away by now, and it's got like 50s furniture that no one's ever sat in, and do you know what I mean? There is a sense of sort of time standing around this place, and I was like, okay, yeah, like it's sort of like it fits, you know. The mechanics of it are slightly squiffy, but like I was totally prepared to go with it. And what I've always had, and when we talked about doing this, and I was like, oh, can we do Beach House, please? Like straight away. Didn't have to like, what was that one called again? Oh my God, and Google it.
You just
like,
knew.
Just on it, you know. And because I had such a clear image of Maria standing there, and her name, like I could have told you the character's name and stuff. It really had a big effect on me. Standing there with this flaming torch, and the description of scarring. I remember in my head, she looks sort of like Mum-Ra from the Thundercats dressed as a maid.
Yeah.
Yeah. This sort of utterly disfigured sort of, you know, because that's certainly the version that I think that her self-esteem presents. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's this, like, I was too scarred to go out sort of thing. And there is a sense of sort of that.
Yeah.
My battery warning there. That kind of.
No. Do you need to plug it in?
No, it should be
right.
20%. It should be okay. But
you're right.
But that's so basically like sort of Mum-Ra in a maid's uniform. My brother has just joined this chat, and that will be the first thing he's heard me say, which has been very different. And much more about the future than the Thundercats, you know. But that was something that really, really stuck with me, you know, and like I was able to picture so clearly. So I really wanted to go back to this one. But I don't remember being as confused by the time travel stuff, you know. No. Because I just sort of accepted it. Whereas this time I'm going, wait, what? You know. What happened?
Maybe with like older heads on our shoulders, we're like a bit more questioning questioning things, but I definitely think that there was maybe a certain element of that he had to cut certain amounts out. I mean, I'm guessing, but
no, I think you're right. I wonder also if because we're older, we now get more scared at the thought of losing 30 years in an instant, where I think, oh my God, I'd be like 70, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, no. That's, you know, please bludgeon me on the beach before that happens. Like,
please bludgeon me on the beach.
Here,
please.
this heavy club, you know. I wonder if that just hits a bit different, you know. But
yeah.
But it was really, I mean, you mentioned Jaws earlier, and that's like, this, my brother will be rolling his eyes actually, because like this kind of runs with me. Like, I really love Jaws. Like, I think, and I mean, I'm saying this, I think this isn't really so much an opinion as a fact, that Jaws is the best film ever made. Obviously, I think, you know, we can all agree on that, you know.
Well,
I also really love the book. Like, I really love the book. I wrote stuff about the book at uni, and I did a speech to get into teacher training. You had to do a 5-minute presentation, and everybody that I was on with did these really worthy things about like doing paired reading programs with kids, and I talked about how Jaws is an amazing book that's totally underrated, you know, and felt like a bit of a I really love it. And this seemed to me totally like an R.L. Stine sort of tribute to the kind of essence of Jaws and sort of Amity Island and that, like, you know, there, and there's the whole tension between like summer people and townies, and all these rich people come and stay in their summer houses, but like we have to work here, and you know, because that basically, like, I don't know, have you read the book?
Years ago I read it. Yeah,
I love it. I've got 2 first editions of it.
Have you?
One of which was given to me by Graham, my brother, when I was his best man, and he gave me that.
Oh.
And I got another one from my publisher when my first book came out, because it's like
that's so nice.
Really cool. Like, I really love it. And it's like 80% of the book is the whole tension between like townies and summer people, and living there, and this shark sort of just over there somewhere. And then the film, which is what most people know, is like the last 20% of the book. It's like right at the end they go out and get it, and you know, and that's it. And I get such Jaws vibes, you know. And I thought he wrote sharks really well. There's a bit, I think it was my favourite bit of writing, was around sort of page 80, where she's dreaming about the sharks and things.
Oh yeah, that actually was quite scary actually, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was really well done. And that's closed in, you know, she kept moving her arms, thrashing her legs. And he uses this, like, he's got so much repetition in the book. So it's like here it's, you know, it's stroke, stroke, stroke. And then, you know, further on, stroke, stroke. And throughout the book, he has this thing of like repeating the word screaming 3 times in 3 lines, repeating the word trembling and all this kind of stuff. And it's that sort of, these quick bits of intensification that he does, you know. And the shark bit was the best bit, which is so... You know, I just assumed that he's like a Jaws guy.
He's got to be. Now you've said all of this, he's got to be, and Karen's putting lots of mention of colour and things like that.
Definitely. No, I like those sort of sharp bits, you know, those kind of punctuation throughout the story, and the sort of the little bits of intensity that he put in. I really enjoyed that. And as I say, I assumed he was a shark guy.
A fan. I mean, Emma's put Jaws is awesome. But Emma, you just said that you liked Ross. So no. Liked Ross, Emma. Karen's put about the beach house. So at the end, obviously the beach house gets burnt down by Maria with the torch. We don't quite know what happens to Buddy/Brad. We presume he goes into the closet back to 1956, but we don't know what happens. But she's put, if the house burnt down, is the time warp way station now just lying on the rocks and water for all the seagulls to land on and fly through? Is this why there are so many seagulls at the beach?
Maybe. Like it's in mid-air and they just keep flying through it by accident.
That's quite possible.
Like, is it part of the closet, or is it that physical space in the world that they built a closet around.
I thought they just built the closet and built the beach house, sorry, round the closet, which contains the time warp thing. I'm so bad at like describing like time travel, like timey-wimey stuff. You're so much better than me, Martin.
The way that they do it here, like the mechanics of this, you can only call it timey-wimey. Because we're expected to just go, oh, okay, you know. And I did.
Yeah.
And I was glad that I did, you know. That bit at the end, I thought was such a cheat as well. There was another thing I'd written down where it's like, it was so sudden. It's page 206. Then her face still a blank, still dead. Maria lowered the torch to a puddle of gasoline by the doorway. With a deafening roar, the beach house exploded in flames, killing them all. And I was like, oh, okay. Next page, she's not dead.
No.
Well, you can't say killing them all and then bring her back like a page. Literally, the next word, I'm dead, says Ashley. You know.
Surprise!
I was like, you can't do that. And kill them all. There we go. Like, they're all dead. And then she wasn't, you know. I really, I think maybe this is somewhere else where he's had to sort of cut down or something.
Yeah, maybe. I'd be so interested just to ask him. Like, if I could ask him, like, well, no, if I could ask him one question, I don't know what it would be, but I would definitely like be like, tell me more about the beach house.
No, I think there was a bit I also really liked, because some of the stuff that I really loved was, you know, I've said this already, how it's like they're so wrought with sort of angst and terror, but they'll go and get a hot dog, you know, obviously. You know, you want to play volleyball? Do you know what? I do want to play volleyball. Yeah.
Doesn't matter, there's a murderer around. We're just like, chill.
I think this was Amy who stared at them, you know, who talked to the moon and everything.
Yeah.
And like, you know, she's looking up and being like, you know, like, oh, you know, it's going to rain. Isn't this awful? And she's like, God, what a horrible summer. You know, everybody's it's going to rain. And he says, okay, do you want to go? And she says, no, I love this kind of weather. I'm going to stay and watch the clouds. Really?
Good old Amy.
That's what there's a murderer on the loose. You hate rain, but you're just going to chill and watch the clouds, you know. And I sort of, do you know where you're like, yeah, of course, you know, you need to be there.
Of course, that's what everyone would do.
We're like at the start of part 5. So part 4 finishes with Brad leading Ashley to the beach house. And we immediately cut to part 5 and go back to 1956. And Buddy is walking towards the beach house with Amy.
Yeah.
But there's this sort of transition that is such a big flag, you know, and like such a you know, a big sort of, you know, I was about to say a red herring, it's not a red flag of like, look at this tight parallel. I really like that, you know, and that's the kind of stuff.
I really like that as well. Like, I've never quite picked that up, but I remember that now. But it's something that I didn't. It's so, to me, like little things like that are just so subtle, but then it's just brilliant. Like when you realise it. It's
the best books, I think, reward rereading, and I love to reread stuff. Like it's such a comfort thing for me, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, certainly my favourite, like Jaws, I don't know how many times I've read it. My favourite book is Cannery Row, which is a John Steinbeck, and I've read it like 10 times. I don't know. I
haven't read that. I'll have to check that out.
It's a really short book. It's pretty fabulous. It's the big book. It's the book that made me into a writer, basically.
Oh, okay. I definitely will check that out.
It made me into this kind of writer because I was writing really different sort of things and very Terry Pratchett-ish, or sort sort of old Terry Pratchett, very heavy like authorial voice and footnotes and all that kind of stuff. And then I read Cannery Row, and specifically the introduction that Steinbeck writes, talking about how to write and how to tell stories.
Yeah.
He says there are certain flatworms that when you collect them, they're so delicate that they break and tatter under the touch. So what you have to do is let them crawl of their own will onto a knife blade and lift them into your jar of seawater. And perhaps that might be the way to write this book, is to open the page and let the stories crawl in by themselves. And
I like that.
I was like, oh my God, like it was properly like light bulb sort of bing. And I just started sort of stripping myself out and writing in a totally different way. And about like a year later, I got my book deal, you know. So I mean, it changed my life. My son's middle name is Steinbeck. Like, he is my guy. This book is my book, you know. But I also think it's interesting that like that's my absolute favorite book. Beach House is this absolute sort of totem of my young reading life that I really remember so well. It's all about the sea, coast, that, you know, people are tied up and drowned and all this kind of stuff. And I really love Jaws, and I live on the coast. Like, I've moved from Glasgow down to Troon, which is just about half an hour away. It's just on the west coast.
You're by the beach, aren't you? You're not far.
Oh, you know, just living by the beach, you know. I go for a run with my dog on the beach for like most mornings, sort of thing. And it's obviously that there's just something about my soul that sort of needs these kind of things, and this is such a big part of it, basically. I really remember so much of this book, and that's why it chimed with me so much. And it's all connected.
I love that, Martin, and I just love how passionate you are about everything, but like about this book, and like it just shows how much of an impact, one, that reading can have when you're younger, and two, that, you know, what it can do for people. It's amazing, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, I mean, I can see.
Yeah, no, I really love your passion about it. It's making my little point horror heart really happy. So what we'll do, we'll just, like, to sum up, I mean, one thing I do like in a point horror is I like a lot of death. And in this one, obviously, we got quite a bit. So I was like, more, but obviously there was no more characters to like kill off in the end. But yeah, so overall, I'm giving it a thumbs up. I know you definitely are giving it a thumbs up. Like, I really, really liked it. I'd actually like to see this one made into a film, I think. Like, even now, I think it would make such a good film. And they were on about doing a TV.
I know this is a thing, but that's what I was going to say. Like, Netflix could do something very cool with this, and all the sort of period stuff, and going back and forth in the 50s, and because I think this is what you said about it, feeling like it was maybe cut down from a kind of longer text or a book for a different publisher or whatever. What that says, and I totally agree with you, is there's more meat on the bone here. You know, there are places that we can go with this. There's a kind of neatness to things that could be sort of unraveled and explored a bit more. And I think like a sort of time travel thing could just be really good fun, the way they could do that. And I'm thinking even of how Brad and Buddy would look, you know, they're sort of like a kind of evil twin dynamic where like they look the same but not totally the same. And
it would be really, really interesting, definitely. Cat's put, do you think he was planning a sequel? I mean, possible.
Yep.
I mean, he did eke out the babysitter books. Like the third and fourth one went a bit cray, but maybe he was. I mean, I would read a sequel, definitely. Just so that I could know what happened to Buddy. And obviously Kip and Lucy. You could have a Kip and Lucy. Was it Kip and Lucy spin-off? There's so many characters. I just keep getting confused.
Like 50s private detectives, like 50-year-old private detectives.
Yeah, definitely.
The thing is, I mean, there's so much between that point, because I think we're told it's nearly 40 years. So it's obviously, the book came out in 92. I don't know why specifically said it in 56. I don't know if it was so he could fit in Elvis and stuff, or, you know, it's...
I don't know.
But why not make exactly 40 years? And what I thought was interesting about that is that a lot of the stuff now that's being produced, there's a sort of, you know, like the movies that made us on Netflix, or like the games that made us, all the sort of video game retro stuff. What was that called again? Ready Player One, you know, this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's all stuff that's being produced of people or by people of a certain age now.
Yeah, it's like Stranger Things as well.
Right. There's a kind of 8-bit nostalgia produced by people at, like, 40 years old, sort of, just above millennial type thing, late 30s up to sort of mid 40s. And all the stuff that they loved is now getting this sort of revision nostalgia type treatment. And I thought it was interesting that there's a kind of 35, 40-year period here that R.L. Stine's maybe gone, that's his timeline. He's got a sort of 50s nostalgia, and that's something he wanted to explore. But what it means is that if Buddy does get back through the time portal with all the seagulls in midair, he gets back to the 50s. If he doesn't get immediately caught and gets the electric chair, which you would think they would then be able to find out about because there would be a historical record of it, he's loose in like 60s. Do you know what I mean? So he's going to be like, he'll be like 27 in 1968 in the Summer of Love and things, Maybe he redefined himself as Lee Harvey Oswald, we'll never know. And it's like,
we need Buddy fan fiction.
There's so much you could do with this as he goes through, like, because this is 1992, so you've got 60s, 70s, and 80s,
Yeah.
Put him in. Maybe he finds more time portals,
Oh, there's so much you could have done with it. Why didn't we get more? I mean, it's like what they're doing with the upcoming Fear Street series on Netflix. I'm not sure whether have you seen that. So they're doing like the 3 different years.
That I haven't
that again.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying we're just on Disney Plus with the 4-year.
Oh,
it's not free, I haven't seen it.
They've adapted like Fear Street into like these 3 movies. So one's set in 1994, I think, then 1978, and then 1666. I think I've got that right. But it's just going to be it's not out yet. It's out in a couple of weeks. But it's going to be so interesting to watch just to see what they do with that. And I could definitely see something like that with Beach House, and I would love to see that. Definitely. But we better wrap up because I could talk to you all day, Martin. I just love it. And like, you have to come back on again. And,
I would love to. I
read another book.
Going through this and see. I find reading difficult at the moment. I mean, it's just with the kids and it's a cheap excuse, but we just stumble into bed exhausted. And so what I find is, because I'm trying to work and I find it really difficult to read fiction when I'm trying to write fiction, and I always have. I'm reading non-fiction, and it's something that it means that I can read, and I can, so because I need it. Do you know what I mean? I need the habit of reading, but non-fiction it's not quite the same. And see, being, so like I said, I thought you were gonna, you might test me on the time travel.
I feel so bad that you thought I was going to test you.
No, it was great. It's like I made loads of notes and was like really reflecting on, look at the time, look at all this repetition and all this kind of stuff. And it was so good, just getting a text and being like, and taking it all apart. It was brilliant. So I
love that you've done that, and like it's just made it so more interesting. And I love that you're such like a fan of it as much as me and everyone who's joined in. Like, honestly, Martin, thank you so much.
I'm gonna 1 wee second. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to say goodnight.
Oh. Oh. Hello. Oh, you're our little special guest right at the end of the chat.
Hey.
Hello. Yeah.
I'll definitely be asleep right now. This is.
I was going to say.
So, I'm gonna.
Oh.
I also have.
Yeah.
I could continue. Bedtime is intervening. Bedtime should have been about half an hour ago.
Bedtime, is it? Oh, well, thank you, Martin. Honestly, thank you. Oh, we got another one. Yeah, hello.
There we go. Right. You saying hi? Hi. Yeah. Right.
Say hello to everyone.
Hi, good boy. Right.
Look, honestly, Martin, thank you. And like, if you've not checked out Martin's books, like, please do. Honestly, I can't recommend them enough. these are like, you can tell that this is much loved copy. I do try and keep them as best I can, but it's like fading on the front.
Daddy's book.
But no, thank you, Martin, and thanks to everyone who's joined in and commented as well. And we'll have another vote for the next month and another chat next month as well. And there'll be a blog post with like more ramblings of my ramblings on there anyway. But no, thank you. Thanks, Martin. Definitely come back on again.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Bye.
Night. See you later. Bye.
Bye. Night.
Bye. Good boy.
Bye.